Hey guys, it's Maymay and it's time for more Scrapbuster card projects. I think you're really going to like this one. These are going to be super easy and great ways to use up your tiny scraps without feeling like a lot of tiny work. So, to start our first project, we're going to be making a really pretty flower card, and all you're going to need are some 1 3/8 inch by 1 3/8 inch squares. And just so you know, from one 6x6 piece of cardstock, you can get 16 of these. So keep that in mind as we start building. Okay, so I've gotten 4 different scraps cut up. These are actually just pieces of 6x6 cardstock from a scrap pack I had left over. So I made sure on my scraps that I could use the front and the back. So you just want to check that, because if you've got one that's got a cut apart on the back, although you can use it, you won't go as far with it. This way I can use both sides of these and to my advantage. All right, we need to build a little tool to get started. No big deal. This is pretty easy. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to want a piece that is 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. We're going to make a template, okay? You're going to measure 7/8 inch over and make a mark, and you're going to measure 7/8 inch down and make a mark from that left corner. Then we're going to cut this angle. So it's going to end up looking like this. We're kind of making like a kite shape. See that? So once you have this, this is your template and it goes super easy. We'll have a photo of this for you on the blog and all the measures for you as well. All right, I'm going to pull out 8 pieces, okay? So front and back, and you guessed it, front and back. So see, I've got 8 pieces here, but I only had to use 4 pieces of cardstock. Now we're going to cut these down. Now I'm going to do these one at a time. You don't have to. You could stack these up. I'm going to do it one at a time just for a little bit of accuracy. The thing you want to pay attention to, we're creating a flower petal, okay? You want to pay attention to your cardstock and just make sure you're not putting something completely upside down underneath here, and we should be fine. You're just going to place that template on top and then cut away the excess. Now there is probably something we can do with these guys. Look at there. There's a perfect example. Matter of fact, I might try to do something with these at the end of the video, so stick around for that one. All right, I'm going to run through and do all 8 of these in this petal shape, and we will start to put it together. If you're doing yours a lot like mine with this kind of pattern paper, you could cut 2 of these at a time. I just wanted to be careful not to cut the wrong orientation, and because one of my pages is going to be solid, this will be fine. I only have to really pay attention to the pattern on one page. Another trick for you, another tip would be, if you cut this piece out of clear acetate, you can actually see through and pick exactly what part of the page you want to be on your flower petal. That would be really cool if you had some cardstock you really wanted to feature the images in. Okay, we got our petals all done. The next thing you're going to need is a piece of 4x4 cardstock. Just so you know, you can get 9 4x4 pieces from one 12x12. So if you have some random sheets of 12x12 laying around, this is a perfect use for those. You can get so many backgrounds from one piece of cardstock. All right, we need to find the center of this guy. So what I'm going to do is run my ruler from point to point, and right here in the center, just giving myself about a 1/2 inch mark, I'm going to make a mark. You don't want to draw your line from corner to corner, because the edges will show, but the center will not. And we just need to kind of see where the middle is to get started. Now, the next thing I want to do, you want to, and I've already done mine, so I'm just going to slide it over here. You want to lay your petals out like you want them to look. Okay, this is not the final look. This is just where we are so far. So I've got my petals like I want, and I want to pop up the ends. I think it'll be pretty if we glue down the center and pop up the edges. So let me get some foam. This is another Scrapbuster idea. If you're like me, you probably have a lot of these little tiny foam squares and you probably don't use them as much as you do everything else. This is a great place to use them. What I'm going to do is flip these guys over, and I'm going to apply 1 or 2 depending on what I think I need up here. I think I'll do 2. And these will be exactly what we need to pop these petals up on the end. And it's a good way to use up these pieces that we just kind of don't always gravitate toward. You know, a lot of times these come in multi-packs and you use the bigger ones before you ever get to these guys, and this is a good place to do it. You, of course, could use a bigger piece, use some that you cut, so you could just lay down one at a time. But I find I always have a surplus of these tiny ones, more than I do of any other foam. All right, so I've got all my foam on the top, so I'm going to turn these back so I can see what I'm working with. And we only need to really start with 1. So let's go back to our little piece here with our little mark. And this guy needs to be placed point to the center there, and he's going to take up that section of our card, okay? So I'm going to apply some glue to this little piece. I'm going to peel the backer off of our little foam pieces. I'm going to place him down. We're going to let him get us started. If you use your grid mat to help you, it'll also help you get your points just right. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go around adding them on. And if you want to do sections, you can do that as well. Now you want something for the center. Now I'm just using a 1 1/4 inch circle punch and just showing you how you can keep using tiny scraps and just use them up. Isn't that a cute little center? You can do something brighter or darker, whatever you want to do there. This guy, I am going to pop him up as well. So just put a little foam in the middle of him and just going to pop him up here. Let's see if we've got him pretty centered. There we go. Isn't that cute? The dimension really dresses this up. And goodness, when you start playing with colors and patterns. Now here's the other thing I'm going to do. This piece is 4 1/8 by 4 1/8. And I like how I get that little thin bit of color around the edge. So I'm going to glue this to there. So another way to use up scraps, go to your scrap bin and look for pieces that fit the sizes and then put them together. I'm trying really hard lately, and mostly in my fabric life, but I'm gonna try it here too, to mix colors and patterns and just play and let color be what is the focus and not so much my favorite thing, you know, not just black, red, and white. But look how pretty that is. I think that's cute. Now let's talk about the card base. Now this base is a little different. You start with a regular card base. This is 11 inches this way, 4 1/4 this way, scored at 5 1/2. That is an A2 card base. You need to add another score mark here. And what I'm going to do is put this into my scoreboard or trimmer, whichever one you want to use. And I'm going to put this card at 4 1/4 and I'm going to score. And what that does for me is it gives me a line to the right-hand side of my center line, okay? I'm going to make this a book fold card is what it's called. I think these work so perfect for quilt squares because I like to keep my squares square, right? Or try to. They don't always have to be square, but I kind of think they work out really cool if you kind of treat them like a quilt block, right? So if I do this, it gives me this section that I can also decorate. This piece gets turned back, and that's how the card opens. Crease that down. And what I want to do is glue this shut. So right in here, I'm going to apply glue. Then I'll close this over, and I'm going to press it down and just let that be nice and flat. This guy will then get glued over here, and look at all how the colors work. See how by putting it into that little white piece back there, how the center really pops, all that white pops out. That's what we're looking for. And I think adding that little bit of dark helps too. So we'll glue this straight down. Then over here, you've got another little opportunity to decorate and more scrap opportunity. Look how little these pieces are, but watch. I'm going to layer one here, and then I'm going to layer this one on top of that one just because I think that'll be pretty to add some color over there. It's also a good place for a sentiment. A bow is really pretty over here. There's so much you can do. So let's glue this one down. I hope that this has gotten you thinking about what you've got in your stash and how you could get some use out of some scrap pieces you've got laying around. Put that like that, and then we'll put this other piece on top. I don't know, it really doesn't need the other piece. I'm gonna look at it and see if I like it. We can do it. It doesn't need it. Oh, let's try this side, the little flowers. Yeah, I like the flowers better, so we'll use that side. Are you noticing too that you can turn this? What's really cool is because our flower can really go any direction, our little star or flower, whatever you want to call it there, can go in any direction. You can turn this in any direction. So you could put a sentiment here and let it open at the bottom, which would be really cute. You can always have it open from the side like that. This is similar to something called a Dresden plate in quilting. Not exactly, but if you'd like to see something like this sewn, check out the video that we loaded on Friday on my sewing channel where I did a pillow with an envelope backer that I think you'll really like. It's kind of similar to this, and that's kind of what inspired me to do this. I thought, you know what? I've never done this, getting these petals measured out just right. That's the hard part. Once you got them measured out, the rest is easy. All right, that's idea number one. Let me show you idea number two. If you were here for Tuesday afternoon show, you would have seen these cards. This is one I did before the show. This is the one I did on the show, and I did them in two different colorways so you could see how they work. And what I want to show you is these pieces that I used are single pieces. I punched circles that were double-sided like these, right? And I turned them into these little squares. So easy to do. We'll link that video so you can see how this one works. All the measures and all that good stuff for these are over there. What we're going to do a little different is this. If you have cardstock that is not double-sided, see, this works this way because I can fold this over and we get to see both sides. But let's say you have single-sided cardstock. I'm going to show you a trick. And I also think you're going to see a big difference in how these look. So let's do that one. Now, I don't have single-sided cardstock. I only have my double-sided, but we're going to make this work. So imagine this doesn't have anything on the back. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to punch out a bunch of 1-inch squares. Now, you can just cut 1-inch strips and make 1-inch squares that way. And I totally have done that 1,000 times. But since I have this punch, I'm going to use it to my advantage. So I've got my 1-inch squares, and now I need some 1.5-inch circles. Now this works really cool for using up scrap. These are 2 pieces that I had in my scrap bin, and I'm going to come right in here and just punch a whole bunch of these circles. For the card I made that you saw first, that one takes 12 of these squares, but you don't have to do 12. I'm going to do 9 today, and I'm going to show you how to really make these pop. Okay, so we've got our pieces. I'm going to use 9. I'm going to pull some out. I made more than 9 because I had a pretty big piece that I was cutting from. So I'm going to pull out the 9 squares I want to use, and I want some that have the little white flowers on them. So there's 9 of those, and I can put the others aside for the next project. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take these guys and we're going to eyeball center them. You do not have to stress over that, okay? We're going to eyeball center them in the middle and glue this down. So I'm going to put a little glue in here, just like this. Now remember, if you had single-sided cardstock, you wouldn't have to do this. And I'm only doing this because of the really cool effect that it gives. I'll get that lined up in the center in a second. So I'm going to run through and glue all these down just like this. Okay, we got them all glued down. Now here's what we're going to do. This is so easy. Are you ready? You're going to fold this edge over your cardstock. And this is going to create this really cool effect of curved edges. It's really, really neat. This is, I think, inspired. I don't know who created this, so I can't give credit, but I'm pretty sure this is inspired by the Cathedral window quilt block, which is so pretty. So check this out. Look at that. Isn't that cool? See how the curves start to come in? Let me use my bone folder and really crease that down. So there's one. Now I'm going to show you another trick. In case these are difficult for you to fold just by in your hand like that, you can take this guy, put your ruler down here and press and lift and just kind of walk around the page doing that. Then you can fold and crease with your bone folder just to kind of get this started. In the video I did Tuesday, I actually used a thicker piece of cardstock as a template for the center. It's just done a little bit differently, and that works really well too. One more thing I'm going to do, now that I've gotten them turned, I'm going to lay them flat and just crease these corners down until I get them on the card. So now let me show you how this is really cool. To me it is anyway. If you take the same color card that you used to wrap around your pieces and you put these guys on that piece, look at this pattern that develops. It's so pretty to me how it's kind of becomes seamless, like one piece with with the background, and see how it just starts to show only the design in the middle. Isn't that pretty? What would be really pretty if you had taken the time to cut these so there's even a scene inside of there. But I love the look of that. I want to show you the difference when we put a different color piece behind it. So this piece is the same as the cardstock in the middle, and look at this effect. So I just sat this one down on a card so you could see. It almost looks like we've cut something underneath coming forward. Isn't that cool? So you can choose how you want to do it. I think I'm going to do it with the first one that I showed you with the cream, because then I want to show you how to add more layers and make it look cool too. So many ways to use up scrap here, you guys, because a lot of these pieces are just small enough to be right from leftover 12x12s and 6x6s and 6x8s that you just have laying around. When you're putting this on, you just get that first one established and then build around it. Once you've got those all glued down, it's a good idea to come back with your bone folder and just kind of flatten these curved edges and the ones in the center as well. I just think that is so pretty. Now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to add it to a larger piece to act as a frame. And I'll tell you guys too, if you go out to Pinterest and you look this up, I think it is Cathedral window fold. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but there are so many inspirational posts. So many people have done such beautiful ones of these. Isn't that pretty? Now let's do another one of those book fold cards. It's going to be the same style that we just did for that last card. And watch this. I'm going to put this here and look how pretty that is. I love it. You even have room for another mat. I don't know that this one needs it. I think it's beautiful like it is. But isn't that pretty? And let me bring those other two over. And we haven't even played with like more color, like mixing these guys up in all different colors. I've tried to keep it kind of cohesive here, but isn't this gorgeous? All right, so that is 2 ideas with scraps. Okay, guys, now we may just be getting ridiculous, but we're going to be using scraps of scraps to make this card. I'm going to place this card mat down. This is an A2 card mat that's already folded, and I'm taking some yellow tape, and I'm going to run it right down the side of this card just to establish a straight edge for me and also to hold my card base down, okay? Now, I put this on my shirt several times and got the sticky off so it wouldn't be too sticky. Remember those scraps we had a while ago that looked like this? That came from our little flower petals? This is going to be cool. I think we'll see. I'm going to use my quick stick for this to make this go a little bit quicker. If you're not familiar with the quick stick, I talk about it a lot. It's the tool that has the little kind of like poster putty on this end. And inside there's another tool. And so you can pick up items with it and place them down and hold them down like that. So I'm going to use that to help me with this guy because I think I'll need it. Watch this. I think this is going to be cool. I'm going to start at the top because I don't know where this is going to end up. We're just going to see what happens. Haven't tried this one yet. I'm going to try it with you guys for the first time. Might be a mistake, but we'll see. So I'm going to line this guy up here at the top, just like this. Scoot him over to that tape. Get him nice and square because he's going to be my design line. Okay. Then I'm going to apply a little more glue underneath in kind of that pie shape. Pick up this guy and place him down with a gap between. Not going to put him right to him. I'm going to line him up with him and kind of leave that little split in the middle. And I'm going to do that all the way down and we'll see what it looks like. So you can see I got those all glued down kind of along that side. And what's going to make this work is kind of the graphic nature of it, how the graphic detail kind of pops. Peel this guy away super gently. Down here, I've got a little bit hanging off. I'm going to cut away. That bottom probably seemed like overkill, but I think it really extends the pattern out. And then let me show you something else. For my stamp set called Big Time Sayings, I'm going to use Hello, My Friend. I think this will be cute. So this is one of the SVG cuts I had pre-cut out, ready for me to go. So with the words My Friend, I'm going to stamp them here onto the card front like that, and then I'm going to pop hello up on some foam. Look at that note card, you guys. That is so cool. I love how that turned out. Super easy. I might even take another scrap of some cardstock and run it right down the side, like as another little graphic touch. But honestly, this is not perfect. This little guy laid here. I might even next time, if I do something like this, which this is pretty easy to do, I might even glue these down to a strip off the card so that I can cut them down either side and get it nice and straight and then put it back. But even at that, look how cute that is. So let's look at what our scraps did for us today. This, all scraps, starting with 1 3/8 inch squares to make that happen. This guy also scraps. All we needed was a 1 inch square and a 1.5 inch circle and then scraps to layer it up on. And it's the same with these. We use the same kind of process here. And then our scraps of a scraps card, which I think turned out just as cute. Very, very precious and easy to use. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed these. Don't forget to share what you're doing with your scraps with us on our customer gallery or at our Facebook called Maymay Made It, and so did I. Also, if you enjoy this kind of scrap busting kind of video, first off, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any. But secondly, we're going to link a playlist right up here or down here. Tamitha will put it on the screen for you. You can click that playlist and it'll take you to our other scrap busting videos that will help you not have any leftovers. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time. Bye now.